The clock on the hospital wall ticked in the silence, every second echoing like a slow heartbeat. Outside, rain whispered against the glass, soft and unending, blurring the lights of the city into trembling streaks. Inside room 217, everything felt suspended, as if time itself was waiting for someone to breathe again. Evelyn sat beside the bed, her hands trembling slightly as she brushed her son's hair away from his forehead. The monitors beeped steadily, the only proof that life was still present, however fragile. Her husband, Daniel, stood near the window, his face unreadable, his reflection lost among the city's ghostly lights. They hadn't spoken in hours. There was nothing left to say. Every word had been used, every prayer whispered into silence. The doctor's voices still echoed in Evelyn's mind. "We need to make a decision soon. His condition isn't improving. The machines are keeping him alive." But to broken bar they didn't finish the sentence. They didn't need to. The silence afterwards said it all. Now, somewhere beyond those walls, they were making a big decision about him, about her son. The story of how it all came to this was not a simple one. Life never gave warnings, it only unfolded. Ethan had been a bright child, quiet, thoughtful, with the kind of smile that could melt even the hardest day. He was 16 when the accident happened. One moment, laughter filled the car, the next, metal screamed, and the world turned into shattered glass and sirens. That was 8 months ago. Since then, Evelyn had lived in a world measured not by days, but by breaths. Every morning began the same: hope, prayer, and the cruel rhythm of waiting. Doctors came and went. Nurses smiled with practiced gentleness. Friends stopped visiting after the first few months. Life went on outside. Seasons changed, people married, children grew, but inside that hospital room, time froze. And now, tonight, that frozen world trembled. Daniel finally turned from the window, his voice low. "They'll be here soon." Evelyn nodded without looking up. He hesitated before saying, "You know what they're going to ask." "I know," she whispered. "They're going to want your consent." Her eyes flickered to him, then eyes that had forgotten how to cry but never stopped feeling. "Our consent," she corrected softly. He swallowed hard. "Yes, our consent." The words hung between them like glass, fragile, dangerous. In another part of the hospital, down white corridors that smelled of antiseptic and loss, a team of doctors stood in muted conversation, charts in hand, voices low, faces heavy with the burden of compassion that no training could truly teach. "They've been holding on for too long," one said. "Medically, there's no recovery left." Another nodded, glancing toward the file. "He's young, but the brain scans haven't changed in months." "And the parents?" "They'll have to decide tonight. The board's already discussed it. They're making a big decision about him. The machines can't keep running forever." The words were clinical, but the silence afterward was not. Every doctor in that room knew what it meant, that somewhere, love and science would collide, and only one would walk away. Back in room 217, Evelyn leaned close to her son. "You can hear me, can't you?" she whispered. "I know you can. Everyone says you can't, but the mother knows." Her voice broke, but she kept speaking. "They don't know your heart, Ethan. They don't know how strong it is. You were always my fighter. Remember how you never gave up in that swimming race? You told me once, Mom. I just kept going until I saw the light." Her fingers tightened around his hand. "Well, I'm here, baby. I'm here. And if there's any light left in you, please, please, find it." Daniel closed his eyes. He couldn't watch her crumble again. Not tonight. When the doctors entered, the air changed. You could almost hear the decision forming before it was spoken. Dr. Potel, the lead physician, spoke gently. "Mr. and Mrs. Ross, I know this is the hardest moment any parent can face, but Ethan's condition hasn't changed. We've done everything possible. We need to discuss what happens next." Evelyn looked at him like a cornered animal. "What happens next?" He paused. "It's time to consider letting him go." The room fell into silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Even the machine seemed to hesitate, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Evelyn's lips parted, but no sound came. Her gaze went to the boy lying still before her. 8 tubes, wires, pale skin, and for the first time, she truly saw the line between life and memory. "No," she said softly. "You're wrong. He's still there. I can feel him." Dr. Patel's eyes softened. "Sometimes a broken bar feeling isn't enough." Danielle stepped forward. "What are the options?" "Withdrawal of life support," the doctor said carefully. "It means we stop the artificial machines that are keeping his organs working. The process is painless, peaceful." Evelyn turned to her husband in disbelief. "You're talking like he's already gone." "He's not coming back, Evelyn," Daniel said, his voice cracking under the weight of months of buried grief. "We've been holding on to hope that's not there." "You don't know that," she snapped. "You don't know." Tears streamed down her face as she clutched her son's hand tighter. "You're his father, how can you even think about giving up?" Daniel took a step closer, his eyes glassy. "Because I love him too, and I can't stand seeing him like this anymore." The doctor gave them time. He'd seen too many families reach this crossroad: love, faith, denial, and despair circling like ghosts in the same room. Outside, the storm deepened. Thunder rolled like an echo of their hearts. The hospital board waited for their answer. Papers had already been prepared. Signatures were all that remained between a beating heart and a still room. They were making a big decision about him, a broken bar, but soon, that decision would belong to his parents. Evelyn sat alone for a long time after the doctors left. Daniel had stepped out to breathe, though there was no air left for either of them. The dim light from the hallway spilled across Ethan's face, making him look almost peaceful. Too peaceful. She closed her eyes and whispered, "If I let go, will you forgive me? If I hold on, will you stay?" No answer came, only the slow, mechanical rhythm of machines, a steady, relentless, and then a broken bar. Something changed. It was faint, so faint she almost thought she imagined it. A twitch, the slightest movement of his fingers. Her breath caught. "Ethan?" she whispered. Nothing. She waited, every muscle in her body tense, every hope she'd buried clawing its way back to life. "Ethan, if you can hear me, do it again." For a moment, there was only silence, and then a flicker. Barely there, but real. Tears welled in her eyes. "Daniel!" she screamed. "Daniel, come quick." He ran in, heart pounding. "What happened?" "He moved," she gasped. His hand. He moved his hand. Daniel froze, staring at the monitors. They still beeped the same steady rhythm. Nothing new. "Evelyn, a broken bar." "I swear, he did. I felt it." The nurses rushed in. Dr. Patel followed moments later. He checked reflexes, vitals, eyes. The room filled with quiet chaos. Minutes passed. Hope rose and fell in the same breath. Finally, the doctor lowered his gaze. "It might have been a muscle reflex. Sometimes that happens." Evelyn's heart shattered a new number. It wasn't. But no one listened. An hour later, the paperwork lay on the table. The pens waited. Daniel stared at the lines, at the signatures that would end their son's story. His hand trembled. Evelyn couldn't look. She just sat beside the bed, whispering a lullaby she used to sing when Ethan was small. Her voice cracked but didn't stop. "You're my sunshine, my only sunshine." A broken bar. Each word broke something inside her. Daniel set the pen down. "I can't do it," he said softly. "Not tonight." Dr. Patel nodded. "I understand. We can wait until morning." That night, the hospital felt quiet. In the darkness, only the hum of machines remained. But if someone had been standing very close, they would have seen it. The faintest movement of an eyelid, the smallest flicker of consciousness. Inside the silence, Ethan was fighting. He could hear voices, distant and muffled, as if underwater. He wanted to speak, but the words were trapped inside him. He heard his mother singing. He felt the warmth of her hand. He tried to move again, and this time, his hand twitched, stronger. The monitor beeped irregularly, then steadied. The nurse on duty noticed the change and rushed to call the doctor. By dawn, The rain had stopped. The first light of morning spilled across the city, a soft, golden, forgiving. Dr. Patel walked into room 217, expecting the same stillness, but Evelyn was standing, tears in her eyes, hands over her mouth. "Doctor," she whispered, trembling. "Look." Ethan's eyes were open, faint, unfocused, but alive. The doctor froze for a moment, then hurried forward. "Ethan, can you hear me?" His lips moved. A sound, weak but real, escaped. "Mom." Evelyn broke down completely. Danielle stumbled forward, disbelief and joy colliding in one moment that defied every rule of medicine. Dr. Patel could only whisper, "My go-to broken bar." Hours later, the board met again, and the same people who had been preparing to end a life now gathered to witness a miracle. They were making a big decision about him, the nurse said quietly, but it seems God already made his own. Ethan's recovery would be long, uncertain, fragile, but it was life, a true, breathing life, and that was enough. Outside the hospital, sunlight broke through the last remnants of rain. The world moved on, as it always does, unaware of the quiet miracle that unfolded in one small room. Evelyn stood by the window, her son asleep beside her, his hand wrapped around hers. Daniel placed his arm around her shoulders, his voice barely above a whisper. "They were making a big decision about him," he said softly, "but I think he made the decision himself." She smiled through tears. "He always did." And as the city awakened beneath the golden morning light, the story that could have ended in sorrow became one of hope, a proof that sometimes the heart hears what the world refuses to believe.